people don't fully realize is that there's a gap between what's required for those SMBs to be successful and thrive and the support that they're actually getting. Where SMBs can't quite compete with top dollars of an enterprise organization, they can deliver an easier, more personal experience to the potential labor that they're trying to bring in.
Today we are exploring the mission-critical system that keep the backbone of our economy running. In 2026, managing a workforce isn't just about cutting checks, it's really about using technology to win the war for talent.
Start to pivot from a reactive system into a proactive one. Pick the best partner that allows you to treat it like infrastructure, where it quietly gets the job done, keeps you compliant.
Hi everyone, this is Maheen and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Today we are exploring the mission-critical system that keep the backbone of our economy running. In 2026, managing a workforce isn't just about cutting checks, it's really about navigating complex legal landscapes and using technology to win the war for talent. Joining us is Behrad Bayanpour, the General Manager of Powerpay. Behrad leads growth and operations for one of Canada's most trusted payroll and HR platforms, serving over 46,000 businesses. And with a pragmatic operator lens, he is at the forefront of how automation and evolving workforce dynamics are reshaping the SMB landscape. So without a further ado, let's dive in and welcome Behrad. Behrad, it's a pleasure having you on the show today. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Congrats on the new studio as well. It looks lovely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we're very excited to have you here with us this morning. Behrad, we'd love to kind of open our segment by understanding the backbone of the economy. As I mentioned in my intro as well, and you often speak about small businesses being the essential backbone of the Canadian economy, yet the operational weight they carry is quite immense. Tell us, what future of work trends should Canadian SMBs prepare for?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let me actually just take a step back for a second, because everybody talks about the Canadian backbone being the SMB segment. But let me just give you a little bit of an observation that I've had as well, and the reason why I kind of landed where I am right now with Powerpay. So, look, everybody knows we have more than 98% of the companies in the country being an SMB. What people don't fully realize is that there's a gap between what's required for those SMBs to be successful and thrive and the support that they're actually getting.
Right.
So as you look at it, and I've lived abroad in the US, in China, and in the UAE, and one of the observations that I had was when it comes down to the ecosystem, the infrastructure, whether that's software, whether that's partners, the infrastructure that in those markets exists for the SMB tends to be a little bit richer.
Right.
Now you layer on top of that the fact that, yes, there is changes in terms of the labor market that's evolving constantly. It's not just about the fact that it's more fluid. It's also about the fact that it's evolving in ways that needs to meet the needs of the business. There is rapid changes in terms of regulatory requirements that's coming in as fresh as 2 weeks ago when the new budget was actually released. And so when you layer all of those complexities on top of one another, what becomes evident is that there's a better way to support the SMB and help them get there. There is effectively three things that they have to be contemplating. One is around the fact that they need to deliver accurately and compliantly, but without the cost structure and character that exists in the enterprise. The second is to be able to continue to stay on top of the business changes as an operator, as an owner. They constantly have to think about the core of their operations as opposed to payroll and HR. And then lastly, how do you not be reactive and stay on top of what the latest and greatest changes are?
That is, there's no better way to put it the way you did, Behrad. So thank you so much for walking us through that and opening the discussion with such insightful, pieces there. And there's no doubt that transitioning from manual oversight to automated systems is what really allows these essential businesses to remain resilient in such a competitive market. And let's explore navigating payroll compliance risks for growing businesses. Please tell us, what are the biggest payroll compliance challenges for SMBs?
So, this is also an interesting question. Compliance continuously changes, right? You can bank on a new compliant hitting payroll HR effectively every 2 weeks, at latest once a month, especially if you look at it across the gamut of all provinces in Canada. The challenge is that most Canadian SMBs take a fragmented and reactive approach, right? When it comes down to their people operations, that's what we call HR payroll and everything that kind of encompasses that operation um, for their employees. And so what happens is when it's working, right? Nobody sees it. Nobody sees the complexity. It's still there, right? Layers beneath. The second piece is as the business evolves, which often it does, whether it's growth, whether it's changing the way that the company operates, the systems don't keep up.
Right.
And so as a result, it continues to build and that pressure continues to build. And when it fails at the worst time. Take payroll, for example. When the failure happens, it's either on a Friday night when you're trying to pay your employees, right? And now you're scrambling to get the money out to them. Or it's during year end when you're trying to close out your book of business. Or worse, it's when you're on vacation and you're trying to deal with it, the much needed downtime that most owners need.
Right.
And so you need to make sure you've got the systems in place that support you as you go forward in your business to an extent that it becomes a little bit of an invisible system in the background.
Right. And there was another biggest payroll compliance, and you highlighted those a lot. Small business owners, they're managing and juggling between so many tasks, wearing multiple different hats. And these things are missed, unfortunately. But also removing the fear of CRA audit through accurate, automated compliance. It gives owners the mental bandwidth to actually grow their companies. Next step, Behrad, let's kind of look at the overcoming labor and talent challenges. How can HR tools help small businesses compete for talent?
It's a really good question because there's two parts to it. If you are a brand new employee, your very first experience with the company is actually immediately after the interview and during the onboarding. So if that experience is seamless, if that experience is efficient, that becomes your very first impression of the company that you're about to join.
Right.
And needless to say, in SMBs, the distance between the company and the employee is pretty small, right? It's very personal, but the experience is extremely personal. So when it's going well, that differentiated experience often is what brings people back, especially in the case of seasonal workers, which we have plenty, right? When you think about retail, when you think about manufacturing, that experience is absolutely critical, where SMBs can't quite compete with top dollars of an enterprise organization. They can deliver an easier, more personal experience to the potential labor that they're trying to bring in. The flip side of it is when you don't get it right, it has a complete negative sentiment for the employee. So let's, again, take payroll as an example, right? So if you get payroll right, nobody's giving you extra credit. You have to get it right. It's part and parcel of the operations that you deliver to your employees. When you get it wrong, however, that's when trust is actually eroded. And it shows up in the data. What we've seen is with a lot of organizations, when they get payroll wrong, 1 out of 4 employees actually question whether they want to stick around. They get it wrong the second time, 2 out of 4 actually leave. And so that's a material impact if you contemplate the time that it takes to recruit, the time that it takes to onboard, get the employee productive. It's absolutely critical to get it right.
Empowering employees, I think that's the main goal, as you mentioned, Behrad. With self-service mobile tools, it really creates a world-class experience that rivals any major corporation. To all the entrepreneurs and the managers that are watching, in 2026, your time is your most valuable asset. And if you're still spending your Sundays calculating T4s or chasing down paper timesheets, then you're working in your business instead of on it. Behrad and the team at Powerpay have been perfecting this since 2001, and their assisted payroll service gives you a real human professional to back you up. So if you're attending the Canadian SME show, make sure to visit the Powerpay booth to see the how 46,000 other businesses have already automated their stress away. Don't let back office friction stop your front office growth. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere because up next, we're diving into how to build payroll systems your team can truly trust.
Hey, you think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. Still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep. Healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah. Well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep. That's all us. That's all UPS.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's jump right in and break down how smart systems can deliver both automation and complete reliability. Now, Behrad, let's explore building systems that deliver that trust, that delivers the reliability. How do you balance automation with trust in payroll systems?
So, look, SMBs sit at an interesting junction. If you're an owner,
Mm-hmm.
right, and at any given point in time you wake up in the day, you wear different hats.
Right.
And at the core of it, if you simplify it down, there are two hats that an owner is wearing. One that they absolutely should wear, and that's dealing with the core problems, the core part of the business. It's everything that they do that actually moves the needle on their business, whether it's their sales or marketing, whether that's developing their product, improving their value chain, and their supply chain that they kind of rely on. The second is somewhat of an administrative hat that they wear.
Mm-hmm.
And that administrative hat is a necessary one. It's not an optional one. You have to wear it when you want to pay your people, when you want to recruit the right talent, when you need to make sure that you stay compliant to the latest ruling that has come about. And so the way that owners should be thinking about it, the way that we think about it, is how do we make sure that that administrative hat is actually put on the rack for good? We treat it as infrastructure. It's always working as it should, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's done right, so that it becomes part of the infrastructure for the business to actually grow on top of. It goes quietly in the background. It evolves as the business needs evolve. And that's where tooling and technology should come into place. Technology should be removing the friction. It should be making it easier for the business to operate and go forward. And deliberately you asked me about automation, so let me kind of address the elephant in the room,
Perfect.
and that's AI. Everybody talks about AI. It's a bit of a buzzword that's getting thrown around. Our perspective, my perspective in particular, is simple. It doesn't matter what the flavor of the technology is that's going on today, whether that's AI, whether it was big data. At the core of it, it needs to be pragmatic and it needs to unlock value. So if it's not doing those two things, then it's just a distraction because it's not fitting that first hat that we talked about. It's not necessarily moving the needle on the core business problem. It's supposed to be removing the layers of complexity out of the second problem, and that's the administrative one.
Very insightful and very helpful to understand how do we really build systems of absolute trust. And you're right, focusing on pragmatic automation, it ensures that technology actually simplifies the user experience rather than adding unnecessary complexity. So thank you so much for walking us through that. Finally, Behrad, let's look at scaling growth through strong partnerships. How do partnerships help SMBs access enterprise level support?
Yeah. So I go back to my original statement, which is Canadian SMBs are somewhat underserved,
Mm.
right? And the infrastructure doesn't quite exist there for them. So how do you build it? A lot of times what happens is an owner tries to take that on themselves.
Right.
They start to try to stitch together multiple point solutions, multiple partners, multiple vendors, and that just adds complexity to the problem. And this is where the role of a good partner really comes in. And by partner, I don't mean just a technology partner. I mean, on the services side, an accountant, bookkeeper, an advisor, and what have you. The purpose of these, what I call ecosystems, is to start to bring that multiplicative factor in where the business owner can focus on the core business problems and rely on those set of partners that they can rely on, trust to help them remove the friction from the administrative task. And so often what we see with our customers is that they rely on a handful, maybe about 2 to 3 partners in totality, where they try to get the most out of that ecosystem.
Right.
And that's the rule. If you can't build it fully and you can't take on the cost structure, partnerships become critical for your success.
They're very important as well. And we can't emphasize enough that providing a human to human support model alongside the high tech automation, it is the perfect hybrid for the Canadian SMB market. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Behrad, for being so insightful and sharing with our audience all your great expertise. As we wrap up, what advice would you give to owners that are very overwhelmed by payroll and HR?
So look, I would say payroll and HR, we've already talked about it. Often they put it in that administrative camp, right? It's an admin task that they have to do. Start to pivot from it's a reactive system that I need to have in place into a proactive one.
Right.
Pick the best partner that allows you to treat it like infrastructure, where it allows you to treat it as utility just in the background. And so quietly gets the job done, quietly keeps you compliant, and quietly grows with the needs of your business. That's fundamentally what I would suggest to everyone to contemplate in the way that they're thinking about HR and payroll or people operations. And that way they can get the most out of their partners and be able to focus on their business.
That is such a great reminder, Vera, that you don't have to be a payroll expert, to run a successful business. If you have the right systems in place, you can do it all. Thank you so much again for being on the show with us and for sharing such great expertise and your insights. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
And that was Behrad Bayanpour from Powerpay, a masterclass in the future of work, SMB compliance, and how to automate your back office so you can focus on your passion. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Please be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more resources. To learn about how we are supporting the ecosystem, please visit Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at smbfoundation.ca. A special shout out to UPS and ADP for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses across Canada.